On July 11th, 2015, in the rundown neighborhood of Garden Homes in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, several shots ring out. A few screams can be heard as an SUV drives away from the scene. As police and paramedics arrive, they find Eddie Powe on the ground bleeding from several gunshot wounds. To their surprise, Eddie Powe is still alive. The large majority of the gun violence that happens on the streets of Milwaukee, the victim knows the shooter. But they are either dead or unwilling to tell the police who did it. People who talk in Milwaukee tend to become victims again. This night was different, however. As paramedics and police are treating Eddie for his wounds, they are asking him who the shooter was. Eddie, against all odds, muttered the name Tone. Police were in disbelief that Eddie just gave them a name. The officers asked Eddie again who shot him, and he muttered again, Tone. Eddie Powe was rushed to the hospital that night, but died 2 hours later in emergency surgery. This is the frightening story of Antonio Smith and the witness intimidation case brought against him. Just choked on whiskey. Back at the crime scene, police and investigators start trying to put this puzzle together. They collect several bullet casings from around the area, as well as a bag of cocaine. They also start knocking on doors around the area to see if any witnesses saw anything. All the witnesses refused to say anything, so police were left with just the name that Eddie gave them, Tone. The next day, a woman by the name of Breanna started receiving threatening text messages. One message said, "Y'all got EP killed. You gonna be on a t-shirt." This is clearly a threatening message saying that Breanna got Eddie Powe killed and she's next. Breanna would also receive daily phone calls from Antonio Smith or his friends, threatening to kill her if they told the police anything. A few days later, police finally received their first lead into this investigation. Police drove by the location that Eddie was shot and killed. They noticed a group of people hanging around that location, so they decided to get out and ask them about what happened that night. Someone stepped up and told the police that they should be looking for a girl that goes by the name of Twin. This was apparently Eddie's girlfriend. Didn't choke that time. After doing some digging, police found out that Eddie Powe was dating Breanna Eskridge. Breanna had a twin sister, and they both went by the nickname Twin. They also found out that the twins were very close to a woman named Wynette McClellan. McClellan lived close to the Garden Homes area where Eddie had just been killed. Police questioned Breanna about what happened that night. However, given the death threats and the distrust of the police, she didn't tell them anything. What the police didn't know at the time was Breanna and McClellan actually witnessed the murder take place. The day Eddie Powe was killed, Breanna and McClellan arrived on the scene just moments before shots rang out. There was an altercation between Eddie and Antonio. This altercation led to Antonio pulling out a gun and shooting Eddie in the back. The story goes, Eddie was in an argument with his ex-girlfriend over some money that she owed him. Antonio was her new boyfriend and he got involved in the argument. Antonio and Eddie ended up crossing paths that night and got into an argument about the money. Eddie then pulled out his gun and pointed it at Antonio. Antonio, realizing that he was in a dangerous situation, asked Eddie to put the gun away and told him that there was no need to have guns involved. Eddie complied, put his gun away, and started walking away. That's when Antonio pulled his gun out and shot him several times in the back. Antonio then calmly got into his SUV, drove away from the crime scene, and left Eddie there to die. Since that night, both McClellan and Breanna were continuously getting death threats from Antonio. One call actually said, "Don't say anything or you'll end up like EP." Antonio Smith even went as far as to lure McClellan into a car wash by using someone McClellan knew to set up a meeting there. The person McClellan knew asked her to come by the car wash to have a quick conversation. McClellan, trusting this person, did exactly that. She went to the car wash only to be greeted by Antonio with a gun. He then threatened her life and said, "If you tell the police anything, I'm going to kill you." By July 19th, 8 days after the shooting, Antonio got word that Breanna talked to the police. What Antonio didn't know, or really didn't care, is that Breanna didn't tell the police anything. That night, Breanna met McClellan and her twin sister Brittany at the site of the shooting for a vigil. After the vigil, McClellan wanted to go out to the clubs, but the twins weren't old enough. McClellan, owning a car, said that she would drop the twins off at a friend's house on her way out to the club. As McClellan was driving, she received a phone call from Antonio asking her where she was. McClellan said she was on her way to the clubs, which Antonio replied with, "Yeah, right, I know they're with you." Before McClellan dropped off the twins, they went to pick up one of her friends. McClellan, being on edge from the phone call that she just received, started looking out her rearview mirror and noticing that there was a blue Impala following her. Down the hatch. The twins asked McClellan to stop at a gas station before they dropped them off at their friend's house. As they got to the gas station, the twins went inside and McClellan and her friend stayed outside in the car. McClellan then received a phone call from Antonio that said, "Hurry up and drop the twins off, or I'll shoot up the car." Once the twins were back in the car, McClellan sped off. McClellan then drove the twins to their friend's house and dropped them off. As the twins were headed up the front porch steps to their friend's house, a person dressed all in black stepped out from an alleyway in between two houses. The man pulled out a 9mm handgun and said, "This is a robbery. Where's the gun at?" With the 9mm gun pointed at Breanna's head, Breanna told her twin sister to run. Brittany did start to run. As she got about 30 feet away, almost to the next house, she heard several gunshots ring out. After hearing the gunshots, Brittany turned and saw her sister lying on the porch with the man standing over her. The man then emptied the rest of his magazine into Breanna and fled on foot. Breanna was dead, and Antonio Smith now thinks that he has a little bit of room to breathe. He thinks that since he killed Breanna, he would have enough intimidation to threaten all the other witnesses to his murder of Eddie Powe, and that would be enough to silence all of them. McClellan was terrified that her friend Breanna was just killed. She was also still receiving death threats from Antonio. What Antonio didn't account for was one other witness that was willing to talk. During the night Eddie Powe got murdered, there was one other witness to the crime. His name was John Spivey. After Antonio fled the scene, John Spivey ran up to Eddie, but knew he wouldn't be able to save him. John then went home and grabbed a gun. He was going to find Antonio and pay him back for killing his friend. Spivey was then walking through the neighborhood looking for the vehicle that he saw take off from the crime scene. Unable to find the vehicle, he fired one bullet into the air in a salute to his friend. Police were now at the crime scene of Eddie Powe, but they heard this gunshot in the distance and they actually went to investigate. They found John Spivey and arrested him for an illegal gun charge. Spivey was actually convicted of a felony in the past and wasn't able to have a handgun, so the police arrested him on the scene. Police, getting the sense that Spivey might have been involved with the shooting that took place that night, they started questioning him about Eddie Powe's murder. He said that he knew the shooter only by his nickname, Tone. This now gave police two people that said the person that did the shooting was Tone: Eddie Powe before he died, and now John Spivey. Later on July 21st, police were doing more investigation and thought they might have who Tone was. So they actually created a lineup and brought it over to Spivey to see if he could point out who Tone was. Spivey did pick Antonio out of a lineup, but the police didn't think they had enough evidence to go arrest him. So Antonio does become the main suspect in this investigation, and now they're just trying to build their evidence against him. A few days after Spivey told the police everything that he knew, they actually found Antonio's vehicle. It was a blue Chevy Impala, the same Impala that was following McClellan the night that Breanna was killed. Upon making contact with the vehicle, a chase ensued, and the police actually lost Antonio in the pursuit. However, Antonio ended up throwing a cell phone out the window. The police were able to recover the cell phone, and police also found the blue Chevy Impala abandoned about 5 miles away from where the chase started. When police looked through the vehicle, they discovered a receipt for a car repair with the name Antonio Smith and a cell phone number. It was not the same cell phone number from the phone that they actually recovered that Antonio Smith threw out the window during the pursuit. However, the phone that they recovered the night of the chase actually tied Antonio to several heroin deals throughout the city, so they actually now had enough to go and arrest him. Police were able to use the cell phone numbers that they recovered to track Antonio. They were able to track Antonio to his house, and they apprehended him. They also recovered a bunch of heroin, cocaine, 6 guns, and $23,000 in cash. Antonio Smith is now in prison. However, the story doesn't stop here. What's the saying? There's no such thing as a smart criminal behind bars, or smart criminals typically aren't the ones behind bars. Something like that. But that definitely applies to Antonio Smith. Every phone call that's made from jail is recorded, and the police are able to listen to it. Every phone call made from jail, there's a pre-recording that says, hey, this phone call is being recorded, just an FYI. However, this didn't stop Antonio from making several phone calls to his girlfriend. His girlfriend's nickname was Peanut. I think it was referring to her being kind of a small person, as she was very tiny in stature. However, I now think that it was maybe referring to her brain. Peanut-sized. Because he made several phone calls to her, and they discussed ways of getting him out of prison. Antonio's girlfriend, her true name was Lyons. Antonio told Lyons that he wanted several items moved to a storage facility, including a safe that had a big black thing that they can't find the numbers to, obviously in reference to a handgun. And then he also called those things dude and old girl. So there were 2 handguns that didn't have serial numbers, that they couldn't find the numbers to. Antonio said over the phone that this dude Spivey is the only person putting him at the scene of the crime when Eddie Powe was murdered. He then went into details with his girlfriend Lyons, telling her how she should kill Spivey. He was going to have someone post Spivey's bail for the gun charge that he still had. He would then pick Spivey up from the jail and kill him that way. He chose Lorenzo Beaton to be his hitman. So Antonio Smith's girlfriend, Lyons, and Beaton drove to the jail on November 2nd to post Spivey's bail. However, police were listening to all of Antonio's phone calls and knew what he was planning. So, police made a plan of their own. They made a plan to catch Beaton and Lyons pretty much in the act of posting bail for Spivey and trying to kill him. However, the plan went south when Spivey was walking out of the parking garage, got nervous, and couldn't follow through with the plan. Beaton and Lyons were not able to get what they came for, and the police were not able to catch them in the act. The police now knew that they weren't able to release Spivey because his life was in danger from these two. So they basically put him in witness protection at the jail. They changed his name and pretty much put him in like solitary confinement. Police were actually able to arrest Lyons and Beaton as they unfoiled another plan to kill Spivey. Lyons and Beaton were actually under the impression that Spivey was out of jail because they know his bond was posted by them, but they weren't able to pick him up for some reason, and they think he's just walking around free. Lyons and Beaton, on the phone with Antonio, actually came up with a new plan to kill Spivey. They said they were going to go to Spivey's girlfriend's house and kill him there. However, what they didn't know was that Spivey was still in jail under witness protection, and Spivey's girlfriend actually ran a group for disabled adults. So that's who they were seeing come in and out of her house. The plan was to throw flaming gas cans inside the house to get everyone out. Once everyone was fleeing the fire, they would then basically kill them as they came out of the house. Police now had enough information on Lyons and Beaton to go arrest them because this whole plan was talked about over the phone. Again, not a very smart criminal. Lyons and Beaton were apprehended and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Investigators were also able to locate the storage unit that Antonio Smith and Lyons talked about hiding their guns in. They did find the guns in the storage unit and eventually linked them to killing Breanna and Eddie Powe. Investigators now had enough evidence to charge Antonio with Eddie's murder, but they were still looking for a little bit more evidence to charge him with Breanna's. This is now where police found out that McClellan was actually in fear of her life, receiving threatening emails from Antonio Smith. Police interviewed McClellan, and McClellan gave the police 2 phone numbers. One of the phone numbers was from the phone that Antonio Smith threw out of the vehicle during their pursuit, and the other one was his personal phone number. This was basically all the evidence that they needed to bring Antonio Smith down for Breanna's murder as well, because they were able to track the phone pings right to Breanna's murder. So this was basically the key piece of evidence that they needed to bring Antonio down now for 2 murder charges. McClellan also came clean and told the police everything, that she was there the night that Eddie got murdered. She was also the one that dropped the twins off at the house the night that Breanna was murdered. She also said that she did not warn Breanna or her sister about the potential danger that they were in. She also admitted that she knew Antonio was out to kill Breanna that night. Police, knowing that information, actually arrested McClellan as well for the murder of Breanna. In the aftermath of this crazy story, Lorenzo Beaton pled guilty to conspiracy to kill Spivey and received 20 years in prison. Lyons, Antonio Smith's girlfriend, took a deal that landed her 15 years in prison. McClellan also took a deal that landed her 12 years in prison. Antonio Smith received 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole for killing Breanna and Eddie. He then also received an extra 45 years in prison for the plot to kill Spivey. As the sentences were handed down, Antonio Smith was handcuffed to a chair, and as the police were wheeling him out, one of the victim's family members shouted at him, and Antonio Smith looked that person dead in the eye and said, "You could be next." And that is the story of the Antonio Smith witness intimidation case. I hope you enjoyed it. If you stuck around to the end, thank you. Please like and subscribe to my page. I will link what I'm drinking in my description so that you can drink along with me next time. Other than that, have a great day, everyone. Ugh, I should finish it. Woo! McClellan lived close to the Garden Homes area where McClellan had just been killed. Brittany turned, saw her sister. Brittany turned. I need to drink more whiskey. So they actually... I'm so burpy. Police were still uncertain that they had... maybe I need another drink. I don't know. Let's do it. Antonio Smith was a few beers short of a 6-pack, 1 fry short of a Happy Meal, a quarter short of a roll. However you want to put it, he was an idiot. That's about it. Antonio also said over the phone that this dude Spivey is the only person that's putting him at the scene of the crime. Hi, honey. Police were actually able to arrest Spivey. Spivey, come on, he's already in jail. However, what they didn't know is However, what they didn't know